Oh, I guess we're getting a sequel. Yes, readers, you've heard that correctly. Apparently, weeks before Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse was released, the duo of Amy Pascal and Arad already greenlit 2 more animated Spider-Man projects, one being a direct sequel to Miles Morales' theatrical debut. And I would be immediately absolutely worried hearing this news if Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse didn't live up to its own hype. It did, so I'm not. But I'm watching you two. Now readers, as you know, I'm not the biggest fan of counting your chickens before they hatch when it comes to storytelling in movies. Sometimes when movies do this, they focus more on the setup for future installments as opposed to making the movie that they're currently making the best that it can be. After all, that's what got a lot of movies and the franchises they tried to build off of them in trouble, especially these two. Jesus, those are some big disappointments. But the thing that we can appreciate about Into the Spider-Verse was that it was first and foremost a whole-ass movie. It took a minute to get there, but it got there. Now, I know what you're thinking. But Arad, what do you mean by it took a minute? Oh, shit. Oh, fuck. It's been a minute since I used that voice. Anyway, to answer your question, there were a lot of decisions that were made that if weren't adjusted to the movie that we got in theaters would have made this movie worse. One of them being to add more of the 5 EU Spider-Men than the ones that we actually got. Phil Lord, one half of the writing and directing team of the Lego Movie and Solo, a Star Wars story before being fired by Lucasfilm, wanted to add 10 more Spider-Men to the fray. But they limited them down to the ones we got so that Miles' origin story wasn't diluted. And while it was definitely teased that there is a spark between Miles and Gwen, like I said in my review of this movie, there was going to be a full-fledged romance from the get-go. There's still going to be one, mind you, but writers Phil Lord and Chris Miller decided to use Into the Spider-Verse in order to actually establish a connection between the two first. And save the romance for a sequel now that we've experienced the connection grow in a genuine way. This decision was made thanks to Sony Pictures animation producer Christina Steinberg, who Phil admitted in an interview with Vanity Fair that, and I quote, "As 5 boys making a movie, it was really good to have another filmmaker there going, I don't think you guys want to do it like this." You hear that? That's the sound of every single Comicsgate fucker collectively losing their shit. So with a sequel to Into the Spider-Verse and a Spider-Gwen starring Spider-Woman movie with Silk and Spider-Woman attached pretty much confirmed, and with individuals such as the director of Voltron Legendary Defender and the writer of Wonder Woman 1984 being a part of the follow-up, not to mention that the director of DC and Warner Brothers animated version of Batman Year One being attached to direct the Spider-Woman spin-off, it's safe to say that the fate of the Spider-Verse, which, let's just be honest, between that and the live-action version is the only one we really care about coming from Sony exclusively, is in good hands. But those hands wouldn't even be a part of the equation if they didn't do their due diligence with what was already in front of them. While yes, Amy Pascal and Arad will always count their chickens before they hatch, which is just something that they are never going to learn not to do, and it's actually very sad that they won't change that mentality. The creative team behind this movie and its success buckled down to make sure that this movie was the best that it could be, creatively, visually, and storytelling-wise. Now, while this is no way me saying to never look toward the future at all, focusing on what's immediately in front of you and making it the best that it can be can open so many doors for you. And it will allow you to plant the seeds that you always wanted to plant later on down the line. Just be prepared to put in the same amount of time, effort, and focus as you originally put in the project that allowed you to plant those seeds in the first place. Possibly even more depending on what you're trying to accomplish. Because Rome wasn't built in a day, a strong house can't stand on a weak foundation, and successful franchises can't take off on a movie that only focuses on the future. Okay, so that last one isn't exactly a saying, but I mean, it's true. Anyway, readers, your homework assignment for the day. Write in the comment section below which one of the next 2 installments of the Spider-Verse franchise you're looking forward to the most. Or if you feel like sharing with the rest of the class an instance in which you realize that you need to focus on what's immediately in front of you before taking off and branching off into the future. Whichever one you decide to answer, I'd love to know your thoughts. If you want to help support the channel, you can purchase official merchandise by clicking the card at the end of the video or in the link in the description down below. Also, be sure to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications because I post new videos every Monday, Wednesday, and every other Friday. But until then, this is Readus 101. Class dismissed.